Hello, and thank you once again for joining me while I play some N64 games. This time we're going to do another part for Extreme G. And before I start playing, I want to show everybody something. I might have mentioned in the last video, I love Nintendo Power, and I love to collect Nintendo Powers that cover N64 era. And I, just the same as I like to do guides and everything, I like to have guides with me. Just not even to closely use for the game, but to read about the game and to sort of like get the feel of the 90s and the feel of the era. And Nintendo Power does that more than anything else. And I got a great lot on eBay just the other day with a bunch of Nintendo Powers that I didn't have, mostly from 97, a couple from 98. I had everything from 99 that was in the lot, so I didn't need that, but a lot of Nintendo Powers from 1997, which is of course the year that I'm right into, and the year that I know like all these games by now, because I played them on the series. And of course, right now I have with me from it was October, right? October 1997 issue 101 is Extreme G, and I'll tell you, there's not a whole lot of strategy in this one in particular, but there's a big, Nintendo Power just did this fantastic feel of like their articles, and not articles, but their exploration of the games, and that's kind of the same thing that I want to do here. Like, I am not trying to show you how good I am at a game, obviously. We've noticed that by now. I'm not trying to ever show anybody that I'm the greatest at this game or this game or anything like that, but when you read Nintendo Powers for a game that you don't have, you still get a feeling like you know the game, and this is kind of what I'm trying to do, just show people sort of what you can expect from the game and show my experience with the game at this point in time when I play it, whether it's the first time I played it or not. And so, for this video, I have actually, I'll go to Extreme Contest and show you. There's 3 circuits. The first one was the first one that I did in the first video, which is Atomic, and that has 4 races. Critical Mass, I believe, has 8. And Meltdown has 12 races in a circuit. And those are going to make for very long videos, and I'm glad that I've done them all, even though they're only on novice difficulty. I did all those. And then I tried another mode that I want to show off today, so I can also show off some of the really cool tracks that I thought were in the other circuits that I did that really impressed me, because I actually really like the track design in Extreme G. I think that's probably my favorite part, even though the 3 tracks kind of all fall under the same, they have only 4 distinct styles. But yeah, I didn't think so. I don't have that extra like all the 4 tracks, even though they're supposed to, like, there's the desert and there's the city and there's that kind of stuff. The track design has been really unique, and that's probably my favorite part of it. And so I also wanted to show that off by playing this extra mode that I found was really cool. And it's this is shoot 'em up mode. And shoot 'em up mode kind of is exactly what it sounds like. You are by yourself and you are chasing down these sort of drones along the track in front of you, and your mission is to keep up with them, and by the end of the track have the highest score for the number of drones you've been able to take out. So you can see I'm up to 5 already, and this is one of the tracks. It has a lot of cool things that Extreme G does really well with its track design. It has a lot of these sort of twisty 360 strip in the middle of the track, which is really cool. And it's got these tight spaces, and then much wider spaces, and jumps, and all these things like that. And it's, this is actually a pretty good track for showing the different things that you can expect from any of the particular tracks in this first Extreme G. I don't know actually about the second one just yet. how the track design holds up for that, but I expect it's pretty alright. You can see right here, this is one section of the track where it splits in two. I think the higher road pretty much was the better one to pick when you're playing this race. Not 100% actually, I don't quite remember because I can't quite tell necessarily when you're doing the race. It's not completely apparent to you right away if you've chosen wisely or poorly, because they're not quite shortcuts. I think it's not unlike, I hate to bring it up, but it's not unlike MRC, where there are two sections of track that you can kind of go down, and one isn't necessarily better than the other. It mostly depends on how well you can drive that type of terrain. But of course, MRC doesn't really highlight that very well, considering you drive one car, you do better than any other cars you can pick. But with this one, I don't think they're necessarily all that different either. I do notice that sometimes when there's a jump in this game, sometimes you can fall off, sometimes you can't, sometimes it'll stop you. And that's one of those ones where it'll actually stop you if you take the jump forward. So, if I could say one thing about this game, I'd like it to be consistent as far as when I have to worry about completely fucking myself and falling off the track. Because I would have done it just there if this wasn't one of those points. Oh, I'm up to 18. But yeah, I think the preset high scores for all of them were 15. Cool. That was a really cool track. There's one track that I'm probably not going to do nearly as well on when I show it to you. I'll make that the next one I show off. I would have to call it the hard. Well, oh no, I didn't want to do that again. I don't really care. I want to do different tracks. Go to different things. Since this is just a single player mode, you can do this completely at your leisure. You can only do one at a time. That's all you have to do. I think it's over here. It's this one. This might be the hardest track in the game. It doesn't look like it would be because it's not in the last. It's not the third track in the fourth circuit, you know? But the circuits, when you do them like extreme contests, that sort of thing, they don't, oh, you know what? I think this bike is actually an unlockable bike. I think there's another one that I didn't unlock. It's all chrome. Like SpongeBob in the future. Everything's chrome! And that's why this is the hardest track. If you're not focusing, you will just fall right into this fucking lava. And that's what really blew me away about it, was the fact that, like, all of a sudden I was, like, racing a ton of other people in this weird, like, very twisty, turny, very dangerous, hazard-filled track surrounded on all sides by lava. And none of the other tracks up to that point had been even remotely like that. And I've already fallen in the lava 3 times because I won't shut up and focus on not falling. This is going to be very poor, it's probably going to be a very bad score for a shoot 'em up run. But, yeah, mainly I just wanted to feel like this is a very unique looking track. There's definitely one more off the top of my head that I definitely want to show this, which is the last track on the last circuit. And even in the extreme contest mode, it's the last track that you race. It was weird because it was the track that was most unlike any other of the tracks that I had raced on previously, but it also wasn't. Jeez, I'm doing horrible. Yeah, it's hard to get. It's harder on the harder tracks with more twists and turns and things like that. It's a lot tougher to get a good shot on the things in front of you. I lost my train of thought. Whew. Oh yeah, it has this cool warp at the end of it. That's how you go on to the next lap. It's pretty cool. When I was driving on this just for the race part, it was actually... I think I was driving a car that had a bike. Really? I think I was driving a bike that had slightly better handling. I haven't been using my nitro. You still get to use nitro in this mode. Oh my god. Are you... Do it. Hey, I got one. I got 1 point. It was a little bit easier, surprisingly, even with a bunch of other cars, bikes on the road beside me, to kind of anticipate all those weird S-curves and everything that was sending me into the lava. Now it's like I really want to get to the things that are directly in front of me, and I want to will the concept of a curve that will take them out of my crosshairs. I want to will that away, and I just keep screwing me over. As far as I've noticed on the shoot 'em up mode, I don't think your regular standard... I don't think your regular standard weapon actually does very much to the thing you're trying to kill. This is why you really, really need to pick up. I blew myself off the track with that. I think that's the other thing is I never really pushed myself off of the track like that. Jeez, this is rough. Nope. Do not like this bike. Say that. There's even much different bikes for the races. See if I can save a little face with this. Nope. Just blowing it. You can tell why this was, regardless of its position on the actual circuits and such, this was definitely the hardest track in the game. But when you're doing the extreme contest, actually, you don't actually have to come consistently in third place or second place or anything like that. If you actually, you can kind of get yourself ahead of the harder tracks, basically, the tracks that you're going to have more trouble with. You can really build yourself a comfort level that you don't have to feel like you have to come in first, because all the game gives you is a sort of a barometer as to how many points you should have by that point. And if you're past that point and you don't need to keep it fairly high, say, I think if you come in first, you get 8 points. If you come in second, you get 6. And there's 8 bikes to a race, so carry on from that point all the way down to 0 for 8th place. And from what I remember, if I came in first in the first 2 races in a circuit, which would be slightly easier than the ones towards the middle, I was kind of ahead of myself, so I would have say I had 20 points after 3 races. It would tell me I really only needed to come in 4th place to qualify to keep going, and I would still, if you come in 2nd or 3rd, then you're still ahead of yourself by the end of it. But I was at I keep doing that. I keep hitting continue. I don't want to play that track again. By the end of these circuits, I think you would get to a point where you as long as you finished 5th or 6th, you were pretty much good to go. But you didn't want to finish 5th or 6th if you could help it, because then you keep falling behind. So this is one more track I want to go to. I'm not going to use that bike again just because I'm going to use the bike that I used for the last circuit in the game, which was Khan. Which is really cool. I don't know how it's going to play any differently in this mode, but why not? It turns out the way that you start out a race actually does matter. It kind of matters similar to how it matters in any other car racing game, where if you're revving too much before it starts, you kind of spin yourself out before you actually get started. But anyway, let's check out this crazy shit that's going on right here. Tell me this doesn't look like any of the other tracks that you've seen from this game so far. This looks nothing like anything else. It's kind of surreal even. It's lush and covered in foliage and so much, and now my frame rate is dropping. And now I need to start over. I don't mind starting that over again. That was weird. Sometimes I just think the way that I have shit set up all the time makes it weird. Let's try that again. No, not using that. Like I said, every time I put a game in for the first time, it gets cleaned. Yeah, see, that was a bad start. But as luck would have it, I still have, like, every once in a while, I make myself look like shit. I get cut off. Something weird happened with the cartridge. This happens. But it's pretty though. This track is legitimately like pretty, and everything else up to that point had been like super futuristic, you know, like metal, and you know, if it was like anything natural at all, it was like a mine. It was like underground stuff, like stuff that still fit like the soundtrack. But this is kind of weird, like juxtaposed with the rest of the game. You could have made every track in the game look like this, and it would have become, oh, this is a sort of like surreal futuristic way. But no, it just kind of sticks out. What I like it for that is there's a sort of like it fits as the last one. It's cool. Unlike, and even unlike the really hard one with the lava and everything like that, it's not really as hard, because it's not super dangerous, for one thing. You're not constantly falling off the track, you're not constantly in danger of, like, really losing a bunch of time by doing something stupid. I think it's one of those, you know, things that comes along every once in a while where you're actually supposed to enjoy the surroundings for getting to the end of this game, as opposed to the real, like, final challenge of it. The final challenge would be like the AI, because, you know, I'll tell you something. There was one AI vehicle that I was competing with for the entirety of the last contest circuit, what have you thing, the 12 races, and if I didn't come in first, it was because this thing was ahead of me by like 20 seconds. It was ridiculous. Every other bike in the game, every other opponent I had was somewhat, like, I use this a lot with the racing games, but it was somewhat rubber banded to you. But the gray car, the gray bike, did not give a flying who's it how well you were doing. It would take off on you. You would have just no chance whatsoever of coming back from it. It was weird. It was disheartening, even. Like, if you needed to come in first in a race, it was like, man, I have to contend with this guy. Every other car seemed to kind of like balance itself out with you, but it was one car that was. You probably know cars. They are bikes. They don't look like they're necessarily your bikes. It's all future stuff. Oh boy, I need to look that up. Future bikes. I keep firing my weapons at like these most inopportune spots, so that it hits me more than it hits the things in front of me. And ah! I go up on the side wall there, and I fire the weapon, so it just hits the top of the wall. No thanks. Well, 18's not bad though. 18's alright. You get the new top spot. Yeah, change track. That's the thing I want to do. Well, let's just do one more. Let's do one more funky something. This looks cool. Yeah, let's do one more. Honestly, this is the part of the game I enjoyed probably even more than the. Excuse me. I probably like this better than the regular races. It's kind of like no pressure, but don't make yourself look like shit. Cool. I find this a little bit more replayable than the regular races, but that's just me. I think this is a cool mode to put into a racing game because it's not really a race. And even the game itself, the weapons, you know, even like a card game, the weapons aren't front and center. You got to be able to drive and, you know, not only rely on the weapon. Because even when you play Mario Kart, you know, you can't just bank on the fact that you can get 3 red shells or a star or something like that. You still never make it if you can't actually drive the course. So, it felt even more pushed aside than it does in Mario Kart. I'll say that. Because driving really is the focus here, not even. There is a battle mode, but that battle mode is only for multiple human players. So that's kind of out. This would make a great multiplayer game in that capacity, though. It definitely feels like that. If you had 4 people playing the battle mode on this game, it would probably be great. But at the same time, when you have, it's always that struggle. Like, if you had 4 people at your house to play N64, as good as the 4 players would make Extreme G, you're not gonna play Extreme G. That's the real shame of a lot of these games that might have really good multiplayer in them. Is you can play this game with 1 other person, and that would probably, you know, that's gonna happen. You know, you and your buddy take on Extreme G. You and your buddy take on, what's the game I'm playing? No. What's a game I'm playing in the near future? I mean, even you and your buddy taking on Mace the Dark Age, having some fun with that is pretty cool. I will be playing Mace the Dark Age soon. I like Mace the Dark Age. But these are all things that you would play with 2 people, but when you get 4 people in the same place, you are not playing the obscure titles. You're playing Mario Kart. You're playing... God, some of you might play Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey, because if you're like me, you would make a point to try and play it, but... That was cool. I still have things to say. Let's do this one. But I think what I mean is fairly understandable. Like, if you have 4 people, those 4 people are not wasting their time playing a game that's not synonymous with 4-player multiplayer. You play GoldenEye, you play Mario Kart, you play Mario Party, etc. 2 people would play this game. But there's also, like obviously I'm doing right now, there's a single player mode that isn't accessible to more than 1 person, and that's a pretty cool extra feature as well. So, like, is Extreme G a good multiplayer game, or is it a better single player game? I couldn't actually tell you, but it would be pretty cool to kind of try and figure that out, really. What was that? But overall, it is a pretty good game. I think its biggest problem is let's not start with its biggest problem, but its biggest benefit, the thing that it had going for it, was that it's the first game like it to come out for the N64. It got to be on the cover of Nintendo Power. That almost wouldn't have happened if there were more games coming out that were like it. Like, you will look in the back of this issue of Nintendo Power and you'll see them eagerly anticipating F-Zero X. And it's kind of shitty to do that in the issue where you're supposed to be excited about Extreme G. but that was just the breaks. Is the only reason that Extreme G did as well as it did. Not for being a bad game, but there wasn't a game like it yet. Everyone was waiting for F-Zero X, and they played this game because it like reminded them of it. And that's fine. I mean, it would stand on its own, and it got 3 sequels to boot, just by being good in and of itself. But I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know people who are crazy for Extreme G, because there actually are people who are crazy for Extreme G. But nobody's crazy for Extreme G without being crazy as well for F-Zero, for Wipeout, you know, for games like that. So it doesn't rise to the top of this small little subgenre of like futuristic racers. It just does really well in its own capacity, and that's admirable. I find this game to be pretty admirable. It's one of the better ones that I've played over the last couple videos. Like, what have I done recently? I've done Clay Fighter. I hate that game, you know, for many reasons. You know, I've done Top Gear Rally. I'd rather play this than Top Gear Rally, but that's a personal thing, because I just think this is more arcadey and more fun. You know, it's a pretty damn good game. But there's other games that do it better. That's the only problem with Extreme G, and that is right there. That's Extreme G, and there's another Extreme G game coming out. And if you didn't know, there's another one for the next generation. There's 2 more for the next generation consoles. And from what I've seen, they're all pretty cool. The next game I will be playing, actually, it's kind of funny. We'll take a look in here, and you will see on the contents page all of the games that I played recently. Extreme G, Mischief Makers, Mace the Dark Age, I'll do that soon. Tetrasphere, I did that not too long ago. Aero Fighters Assault, that's coming up. F1 Pole Position, that's going to be in 2 games, actually. Yeah, and then previews. Funny enough, one of the previews is Madden, and the reason that I'm doing the game I'm doing next, NFL Quarterback Club 98, is so that I don't do it too closely to Madden. There's 2 football games coming up, and I don't want to space them too far to get, like, too close together. I don't want to do them too far apart that it wouldn't have been realistic for the release date, because they're really close. The other preview is for Last Legion UX, which never came out here, by the way. No great loss, but I always like when other games would have come out here. So, anyway, next time will be NFL Quarterback Club 98, which is actually the football game that I had for the N64 when I was a kid. Not that I played a ton of it, but it is a game that I had. And what I know about it is that it has a ton of features and a ton of things that I can show you. So there will probably be a good number of videos just based on the fact that each video might be dedicated to a slightly different thing. But that was Extreme G, and I really hope that you liked it. And keep reading articles, keep watching videos. I thank you. Signing off. Have a good night, everybody.